And because he asked, why do other religions not describe the present moment? And Ajahn answered so a very interesting way. She said they didn't talk about all the different chittas after hearing and seeing, like receiving consciousness, sampatichana, and santirana, and all the other chittas that arise in rapid succession, and about the absolute truth of non-self. Those are things we have heard before. But when she says that again, it is such a good reminder, because Ellen said several times, that's a powerful statement. So I like that remark very much. And Ellen also asked about being alone. And it was very good, the answer. We have had several answers about being alone, but it is the bad friend that never leaves you. And Ajahn said, alone, not alone, is seeing a reality as it is. So that is also, again, a bit of a new approach. So all those new approaches I find are so very helpful, even if we have heard it before.
That's why the more we heard about the teachings with understanding a little more, we can get closer to understand the truth of that which is just now. It's not far away from here and now at all, but no one knows about it. That's why each word will lead to the understanding of that which is now appearing. The more we heard about, like hardness, see, it seems very, very usual, natural, but no understanding of it yet. And some might think that it's easier to understand it, but actually it is exactly the same as other rupas, see? So our own idea is not the understanding of the absolute truth as it is that all are the same. The moment when just a rupa appears, it's not as much, as big, as great or hard as it is. See, when it appears as hardness and softness, the actually reality is that it's so very, very just minute. Thinking about the ants, the very, very little ant, it has all five senses. The seeing, the hearing, the smelling, the touching, see, but who knows? And that is just that, when it becomes from what appears as very big thing, like people and things, but actually just a very, very tiny arising and falling away, see? And that is the truth. Just one at a time does not appear as it appears usually in daily life. Even hardness right now, so many, many kalapas and many, many experiences, and some might think that it's easy, but actually it's exactly the same as the other rupa. But the characteristic is different. That's why right understanding develops to understand each one which appears little by little before the nature of its characteristic can appear as no one and no thing and no self. We can say that life is Dhamma, and as we think, we live, but actually with Dhamma all day, no understanding at all about it's Dhamma, not me. That's why no need to look for Dhamma anywhere. It's just right now. With understanding, without any understanding, or with some understanding, a little more. So we don't have to look for ignorance or avijja. It's the moment of not understanding the nature of seeing as not self. No matter when, in a day, how much ignorance about that which is so close. Any moment, anywhere, see, they are all Dhammas. Does anyone have to look for Dhamma? It's there, unknown as Dhamma, that's all. So study Dhamma means study that which now appears any time, any moment in life. It is actually the same characteristic, but not as known as not self. As not self at all. No thing in it. Think of the tiny ant, see, whereas its eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body just touch. The experiences of hardness is there. How little it is, how very tiny it is, all over the body, with akasa in between each kalapa, exactly the same. No matter small ant, big ant, a person, a being, or just a tree, chair, the same. The world of Dhamma. This is the only way to have less and less attachment to the idea of self, little by little, until reality appears as we have studied, as foundation to understand this moment of that which is now appearing by conditions. More confidence on anatta. Nothing, just nothing. Is there touching now? Is there seeing now? In the moment of seeing, there is right understanding, no matter it's that which is seen or that which is touched, exactly the same, just there and then gone. Otherwise, the confidence of the teaching is not strong enough to let go, little by little, in daily life. Very natural the way anatta is. It's not just when something happened unexpectedly, but even right now, unexpected moment of seeing or hearing or thinking. Or death, see, anything happens by conditions, just for a moment and no more. Just consider whether it's true or not. That is panya, which begins to develop to understand daily reality, daily Dhamma. Not in the book. When we study the teachings, hearing the words, there is the understanding about the words, but not about the reality which appears. Even while we are talking, what are realities? The eye, the ear, the thinking, the touching, hardness, are all there. And we talk about the story of Dhammas, where Dhamma arises and fall away all the time. And when there are conditions for satipatthana to arise, it's just like this moment. That's why Panya knows the difference between moment with direct awareness, with understanding, from hearing, considering, intellectual understanding, different from moment in a day when there is touching all the time, but no understanding of the reality, which is different through different doorways and then gone. To begin to know, to be acquainted to the reality is moment of direct awareness. Just exactly that the other moment, but it's the moment of understanding the characteristic which appears. No word to say that it's direct understanding, but it's there by conditions, and sati appears. No need to say that it is sati, because at moment it's just the moment of touching, but before the direct awareness, no understanding of it. So it begins to just naturally touching, and then the understanding from hearing and considering, conditioned moment of beginning to understand the characteristic which is not self. Just there. See, when it's only there, how can it be people and things? And this way to study Dhamma, from intellectual to direct understanding, and study on and on more, even after Vipassana Jnana, until no kilesa left. Very natural, little by little. Only Panya is there to understand the different moments between moment without awareness and moment with awareness, which means there must be a little understanding there. Even it's so very quick and very little, not much in the beginning, but later on, more understanding, more confidence on that which is awareness and understanding of a reality right now by conditions. No one who tries to do anything, no one who tries to have sati, just naturally, but the conditions, the sankhara dhamma, develops on and on unknowingly until it's time, the moment of just there, it is aware and understand that which is different from moment without understanding. That is the beginning of being acquainted to know. Not me, it's there all the time. But it's mistaken for I. But actually the nature of that which is there, just very short moment and then gone. And when this is true, it is the meaning of pariyatti, confidence on the words of the Buddha. Because when it's time to have such moment, the understanding how come is there from hearing just one word and more with understanding and letting go little by little of the idea of self, even intellectually. And this is the Ariya Satya, the fourth noble truth, which is subtle too. all Four Noble Truths are subtle. So the way is very subtle because it's the natural way. Panya develops, Sankhara develops, no one. To let go the idea of self from what we heard, Chitta, Chittasika, and Rupa. Can you see the little ant's eyes? But it sees. And about the nose sense? And what about the hardness? Exactly like ours, or whatever is now hard. See what is touched with right understanding, or just a little bit of direct awareness, even very short but so natural. Otherwise, okay, please.
I think this is an important point because we're so used to thinking of our seeing as different from the ant seeing, as different from the colorblind person seeing. But seeing is just seeing. It doesn't belong to an ant or a colorblind person or to us or any other being. And what is seen is just that which is seen. And as we stressed last time, as soon as there's any idea about it as this color or this visible object or the ant's visible object seen or the one someone else, it's not the understanding of just that which appears, not belonging to anyone or any insect at all. So seeing is just seeing, hardness is just hardness, visible object is just visible object, regardless of who or what insect experiences it. Otherwise, it's always the idea of someone or something, not the understanding of Dharma as just Dharma. And it's the same when there's the idea of hardness being easier or sound being easier than visible object. Actually, it's still the idea of something or my experience, not the understanding of just what appears now, regardless. And I think so often there's a kind of expectation that I'll be able to understand tangible object first or something, but it's not just understanding what appears now as tangible object or sound or visible object, not belonging to anyone at all. So these are very important points.
I find it such a good reminder that Ajahn said that we mostly have the story of realities instead of experiencing directly.
And there's so much attachment to the story or to the words or to book detail and forgetting about just what appears at this moment. Like we have the idea that we can work it out or we can find the hardness or the visible object, but it's just a long story about it. Like before there were stories about other kinds of experiences, now there's stories about dharmas, but it's still I trying to work it out or thinking there can be understanding by knowing the story and forgetting about just what appears at this moment, the Dharma right now, here and now, no matter one is reading or cooking or shopping or any other time or occasion. That's why there's no limit to dharmas, no limit to the time or occasion, because there is always dharma appearing.
Ajahn Ka, when you were talking before, I was thinking that if we don't hear these words often, lifetime after lifetime, there's no development of understanding because we can't develop understanding by ourselves. We have to have heard the Buddha's words somewhere in the past to still be able to listen now and continue to listen. But I think the main point I'm making is that we have to keep listening, otherwise Panya cannot develop. Would that be correct?
And that is the meaning of Pahu Sutta. Pahu Sutta in Pali. Pahu Sajja, Pahu Sutta. The one who hears more, understands more. Because you see that it depends on understanding. And when it develops from not just now, long time ago, and when it have heard this again, it understands. Because it has developed to that degree. That's why someone can attain enlightenment very soon, while the other have to listen more and more and more. All are Dhamma, Anatta, depending on conditions. The understanding is the most important from hearing and considering. For example, to understand the Kalapa, see? What about the ants' Kalapa and our Kalapa? Exactly the same, see? So when it's the moment of realizing the truth, it has to be just that. Not as thick as we used to take it for something by its shape and form, but the moment of experiences, it's just not like daily life that all appear together as something all the times.
So that that listening, that becomes like accumulation. This accumulations for understanding, and does that accumulation? I'm probably putting me in here. Am I going to hear it again in the future? But that listening, and then there'll be death in this life. We don't know where we're going to go, but that listening, that slight understanding, is that a condition for hearing more in the future?
Yes, otherwise, no intention, no cetana, see, like or dislike, everything, not self, but sankhara khanda, the accumulation of the 50 cetasikas.
And Azita, when you say the listening, this leading to understanding, but it's referring to the listening with understanding. It's not the number of hours we have the audio playing or the number of texts we read. It's the listening with understanding. So even if it's 5 minutes of understanding, more precious than 2 hours with no understanding. So it's this moment with understanding and wise considering that conditions more and more understanding, not just hearing without any understanding at all.
And I think we can say also that listening to the Dhamma or hearing the Dhamma can be a condition for understanding to arise in this lifetime, whether it's right at that moment or whether it's based on reflection later of what's been heard, that can condition understanding. And I think it's the understanding that accumulates rather than the listening as such, because the listening or the hearing is a moment of Parker, obviously, and it's the way in which what has been heard is considered and understood. That is the condition for hearing the Dhamma in a future lifetime. Because it's a very high degree of kusala. And any understanding that arises in this lifetime is Gammapata.
What did you call it? Kusala Gammapata.
I said any understanding that arises in this lifetime is Gammapata. So it can bring the result of hearing the Dhamma as vipaka in a future lifetime.
Great listening, Ajahn, referred to the Bahu Sutta, refers to listening with understanding.
So back to what you just said, John, is it such a direct, like Gammapata, and it will bring result in future that you hear again? Is it that direct?
Well, I can't say for sure. Ajahn would be better placed to comment on that than I would, but that's how I would see it, because what is the condition in previous lifetimes for hearing the Dhamma in this lifetime? It has to be some very high degree of kusala. Now, one reads in the birth stories, not the birth stories, the declarations of arahatship, that sometimes that someone saw the Buddha or an arahat, and out of saddha made a donation or supported that person, and as a result was able to hear the Dhamma in a future lifetime. But it seems to me that equally just moments of understanding of the Dhamma in this lifetime must be even greater kusala actually than giving dana to an enlightened being. So, John.
Ka, what about this life? What is this time of hearing? The 100th, the 1000th, or what? There must be the first in this life, and then second, and on, up till now. It's a way to understand that when one is interested to understand the truth, it conditions next moment to hear it again. Otherwise, we will not talk about Dhamma. So think about many years ago, the first time you have heard the Dhamma with understanding, you see the value of understanding. So that can condition today's discussion, right? And tomorrow, and by conditions, we don't know when time comes. Just in this life, one can see the difference from moments to moments. If there is no interest in understanding what appears now, then it's no condition to listen to the words of the Buddha. Can you have anything at will?
No, we cannot.
There must be conditions. See, Dhamma works its way. No one at all. From no interest at all, but after hearing again and again, on and on, we don't know. There can be conditions for hearing and understanding, sometimes, more or less. The most important is actually there's no one, but there are different dhammas. Citta cannot be cetasikas. Each cetasika is different, and many degrees by accumulation. From this moment on, tomorrow it is not just like today, by way of accumulation. Otherwise, how can there be enlightenment? The apisamaya.
was that last comment that you used, Ajahn? I didn't understand.
Say it again, please. What do you mean?
The last words you used. I didn't.
Samaya. Samaya. Samaya means moment. And Samaya is the moment of enlightenment. Never before in samsara. How come? With understanding, not without understanding. It has to be the understanding which can eradicate ignorance with idea of self and attachment to this idea of self. Because today, how many moments of attachment? All the time. Just reach out the hand, stand up, drinking, walking, each moment. And what about understanding? If there is no hearing, considering the teachings of the Buddha about the truth of whatever is there. So any moment, depending on conditions, no regret, because no one there. And that is the right way to understand the truth. When one regrets, it's idea of self. When one delights, idea of self. That's why reading the text with understanding of no one. Even it said, do this or not do that. See, it's just reminder about what is kusala and what is not kusala. What will bring the bad result or what will bring the pleasant result. By conditions. See, sitting right now. What about understanding of what? See, depending on conditions. So one begins to understand more and more about the truth of parami and kanti parami.
A moment ago, Ajahn, you spoke of regret, and the Cetasika is kukucha. Does that regret or kukucha arise only when there's when one realizes there was missed opportunities of kusala and being akusala, or does kukucha cover any type of regret? You know, I might say, I regret not bringing my children up the right way or something like that.
You haven't done that, should be done, right?
And that means of anything, not just kusala, akusala.
Because is it kusala to regret?
No, it's akusala.
Mm-hmm. Just learn about the words, but when time comes, what about the understanding? See, even we talk about how it comes, how it arises, what situation, we can talk about that. But the moment when it's there, what about the understanding? See, but it's good to know, but to know that without understanding the truth as no self, it's just like the story. But it's not the story in the book. It's now this moment of touching, seeing, thinking, regretting. See, any reality is there to be learned, to understand the truth that actually it's conditioned by many, many conditions, but no, we just learn it by words in the book. But when time comes, it's from understanding, intellectual understanding as the base, foundation, the original of the moment of understanding the truth. Without that, impossible to know or to understand what is meant by direct awareness and intellectual awareness. Only when time comes, it's a proof of the understanding. Even right now, see, hardness is there. See, what about the understanding? It can be the degree of vipassana jnana when there are right conditions for its arising. Only that by conditions. But when it's not direct awareness, how come? The world is just like what it appears as usual. But when it's just like an ant touching, see, hardness is there, the same. All depends on numbers of kalapas. But the kalapa must be exactly the same. And when it's not as big as a table, but when it's just reduced to just nimitta of reality, one can understand by then the difference between nimitta of reality and nimitta as we take for concept. What is the difference between an ant, the small ant, and I or us? Anything different?
I could say I'm bigger than.
See? And the giant, see? But the rupa is the rupa, the kalapa is the kalapa, the akasa is the akasa. When it's directly experienced, what about that? It has to be just like that.
It's amazing that you should mention ants, Ajahn, because where I live, we have very, very tiny ants. They are so, so tiny, but they're very fast. So I was just watching one when you were speaking, and they're very tiny, and I'm very big.
But the feeling is the same. It's frightened, see? The same feeling as anyone. Frightening is frightening, dosa is dosa. And that's the truth. It has to be just like that, because actually nothing can appear together. Hardness is hardness when it's there. Panya understand it clear, very clear, because it's just only one and so tiny. Not as thing at all. And it's here, see, what we take for body, our body, it's just like that. Everything we're talking about is there. And what is there? See, not a table, not the skin, not the throat, see, but there means that it arises. And this is just a way to condition letting go the idea of self from hearing and considering, to have less and less attachment to the idea of self. And no I, only the sankhara khanda and the panya is best, the best of all dhammas, because it can understand even the word about the reality and then on to the moment of directly experience, because it's so true. If it's not true, it cannot be known or enlightened.
A few times in the last couple of sessions, maybe a few sessions, there has been talk of arms and legs. And when I re-listen or listen again to what I've recorded and hear, no arm and leg, I think, but I feel an arm and a leg. And I can see that it does take the panya that you speak of to really understand, because if I'm just thinking about it, I have arms and legs, and that's just wrong.
And gone completely, see, without
And
understanding.
that's even harder to grasp.
That's why the Dhammas are very subtle.
Mm.
And this is the Buddha's words after his enlightenment. All Dhammas take how long to realize the truth? Stage by stage. From confidence on the intellectual understanding, which will condition the direct awareness, more confidence is only way. It can be not only when it is directly experienced with panya from the very beginning, before it can appear, show up as it is, to enlighten moment.
Regarding no arm, no legs, I was also thinking of this because at the end of the last discussion, I think Tadao was saying that before going to sleep, he tries to understand what it means, no arm, no leg. And it led me to wondering whether we need to make a distinction between just the thought of arm and leg and taking it as something real or something that has existence, because the latter is definitely wrong view. But just thinking of arm and leg, just like thinking of face and body and table and chair, is not necessarily accompanied by wrong view.
And this is the absolute truth. If no one thinks about arm and leg, see, even right now, do you have, if you don't think about it, no arms, no legs, when no one think about it. So the truth is the truth forever. Never change. If we don't think about arm and leg, no arm and no leg. But it is so very, very, very there all the time, from life to life, arm and legs. It seems like it's there all the time.
In the same way, Ajahn, you give the example, if you don't think of your money, you don't have it. So it's similar. So it makes it very clear.
Nothing just arises and falls away, and there is thinking all the time as something, as I, and something belong to me. Because of the I, the idea of I is there.
And we should also keep in mind, Nina, that what the Buddha taught is the understanding of what is real at the present moment. The understanding of whatever appears at the present moment, seeing it as it truly is. So any sort of any thinking extrapolated from that, like money is not real, is not necessarily the actual moment of understanding of a presently arising reality. But it's more like saying if dhammas are real, then concepts are not, or if dhammas have absolute reality, then money doesn't.
Try telling that to the financiers, Jonathan.
Well, it wasn't my idea.
Same as knowledge and understanding, just because one can repeat the details or say that there's no money doesn't mean there's any understanding of what is seen now or what is heard now. Or one could just say there are no arms or legs, but what about the understanding of what appears at this moment? I also had a comment on regret, Peter. I think that when there's regret, especially a lot of regret, it becomes more and more obvious how much wrong view of self is involved, conditioning the regret, like when there is the idea of I should have brought up my children in a different way, or I should have remembered to take my umbrella out, or I shouldn't have got cross with my friend today. It's all the idea of I and what I could have done differently. No understanding at all about dharmas that are conditioned now and dharmas that were conditioned in the past and couldn't be any other way, because just like now, there is just the meeting of associated dharmas to be just this moment of seeing or this moment of hearing, just as it is. It was the same in the past and it'll be the same in the future. No I who can choose or make things go one way or another. So we have this story about bringing up the children or not taking out the umbrella, but this is the story of I and what I could have done or should do, not the understanding of dharmas that are anatta. So that's why for the Sotapanna, nothing to regret, because no wrong understanding of I that does anything at all.
So the Sarah, the Sotapanna never has kukucha to arise. It's totally eradicated.
As far as I understand, yes. So no idea of what I should have done or could do. What is there to regret when there is understanding that dharmas are anatta?
That makes me think that there must be a lot of I, because often I regret many of the past events, things I've done, things I should have done, didn't do. So a lot of mana.
A lot of mana and a lot of clinging to the idea of self. And our other friend who had so much regret about this and that was done, one can see one is obsessed with oneself and the idea of I that should do this or should do that. So no kusala at that moment, no consideration for others, no understanding of dharmas at all. So the kukucha arises of dosa, so different moment, but in between so much clinging to self, so much mana, what will the people think and how could I have done that? A lot of mana and a lot of wrong view of self. I should have done something different yesterday.
And it's also a known phenomenon associated with aging, thinking about the past and regretting things that were done or not done, and also having attachment to the past.
Good points, thank you. Actually, I have another question, and this one's about mudita, and it's sympathetic joy for somebody else's good fortune or happiness. Now, does it always mean that, or can it mean that the sympathy or the mudita is for someone else's good fortune? But what if that well, for example, I'll give this example. I have a friend who's just got a new partner, and she's very, very happy, and they're very happy. And I thought, I thought about mudita. Would mudita arise in a situation where really there's a lot of akusala, or is it just the fact that that person is happy? Do you know what I mean? So that's my question: is mudita aimed at just anyone who is happy or got good fortune, or does it have to be the fact that they're I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. Does it matter if their life is lots of attachment?
Anyway, isn't one glad for one's friends to have pleasant feeling rather than unpleasant feeling, for things to be going as they would like? Of course, if it's the mudita for someone who's interested in the Dhamma, it's more precious. Yeah. But anyway, you hear about someone who's just been on a nice holiday or just bought a new apartment, so one is glad they have what they like. That's it. Better than having jealousy or regret or thinking about oneself at those times.
Associated with their gain, their benefit, their good fortune, rather than their pleasant feeling. Otherwise, if someone was, I don't know, high on drugs or something, that could be an object of mudita. Doesn't sound right to me, so I think it's more to do with someone having having gain or benefit, fortune in life.
You know, everyone in life is so susceptible to gain and loss and praise and blame and all these things because there's so little understanding. So if one hears that Nina is warm enough and comfortable, then one is glad. So it's just these little things. But it's not like when one hears someone's understanding of Dhamma, and then it's the real joy and kusala, which is more precious than just joy in other kinds of good gain or results.
And on the other hand, the near enemy of mudita is attachment. So it's something that can be confused with mudita as well, right?
And then one's not thinking about the other's welfare, but oneself, one's own gladness, because it's my friend or my family member. So not mudita.
Wouldn't the near enemy of mudita be jealousy rather than
dosa? Yes, the near enemy attachment and the far enemy jealousy of one kind. Yes. And Betty, I just saw your comment that you said that you found it helpful, the discussion on regret. Anything in particular?
Can't hear you, Betty.
We can't hear you, Betty.
I guess in the last week there's been a lot of thought of regret about various stories in my life. And I just realized that this regret enhances the idea of self rather than enhancing understanding of a reality. And that was so helpful to me, because it's like the regret disappeared. So that was wonderful for me just now.
I think regret includes what we conventionally refer to as self-pity also.
Yeah, probably does. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Can.
There's regret and regret, but what about the understanding that even regret now is just a Dhamma, not my regret, just another passing Dhamma of no consequence. But of course we don't like it because it's unpleasant and it just conditions more and more regret. But when it appears, it's just another Dhamma, not my regret.
I seem to have taken up a bit of time, but if no one else has got questions, I have another comment. It's regarding patience, which we talked a lot about is virya, but I've written down here patience has the characteristic of acceptance. Its function is to endure the desirable and undesirable, and its manifestation is tolerance or non-opposition. What is the difference? Why do we have a characteristic and a manifestation? What's the difference? Anyone?
Standard Abhidhamma treating of every Dhamma. Every Dhamma is said to have these four, can be regarded by these four ways: characteristic, function, manifestation, and proximate cause. So that's the Abhidhamma analysis of all conditioned Dhammas.
Virya, for example, it has the characteristic of energizing the citta and the cetasikas, but the manifestation, how it appears, is as the enduring or patience. So this is why often people find it difficult to understand why patience is a kind of virya, but the way that virya manifests or appears is as enduring whatever appears now. And that's the aspect of patience, I think.
Yes, and its proximate cause, it said, is seeing things as they really are.
Right. So the understanding that conditions kusala patience, because here it's talking about the kusala patience, the kusala virya. So more understanding, the more enduring there is of whatever is conditioned at this moment, no matter seeing or hearing or jealousy or anger or whatever it is conditioned just as it is, as anatta. So that's why understanding conditions more and more patience, more and more letting go of the idea that I can make it different, or I should understand this reality better than another reality.
John, what was the other one? It was function, manifestation, proximate cause. And what was the other one?
Characteristic. Characteristic.
Sorry?
Characteristic is the first one. Lakkhana.
It's like the sound is not clear.
Characteristic.
Character. Thank you.
The one comment that John made last time, which links up with the proximate cause of understanding reality conditioning more, kusala patience, is she was also mentioning that the patience leads to more and more confidence. So more understanding conditions more patience and more confidence in what is true and right. So this is why they all condition each other. And why Kanti Parami develops together with understanding.
Yes, these discussions have really shown me just how interconnected, even though they're very separate, the Jeta Seekers, but they are so interconnected and sometimes similar, so that it is difficult to know because there's no direct understanding to know one from another. But like with that regret, I was thinking about it arises with dosa, some dosa mula citta. And so this unpleasant feeling. So when it's regret, and like Sarah was saying, you know, with mana, so it's a long story, but I can see how without understanding, it's just a big tangle. You don't know one from another.
And one thinks it's all at the same time, but as we know, mana has to arise with lobha, different from regret with moments of dosa, but they can condition each other and follow very quickly one after the other.
Interest, Azita, when you were giving us the characteristic and proximate and manifestation of patience, where were you reading from? Can't hear. Couldn't hear. Please turn your audio on, Azita.
Yes, of course. It's just handwritten. It was something I've written out of a book or off something. Oh, I know. It's from. I think I got it from the wiki on DSG. I went through Kanti there, and there's about 100 posts. So it's one of those.
One of those. Okay.
I might add one more item. When we think in terms, not we, but when there's thinking in terms of realities rather than in terms of panyatis, it also encourages or conditions more upekha as well. Any comment?
Right.
Sarah, did you hear that a moment ago?
Quite right, Betty. Sorry, it may not have been loud enough. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I had just said that when thinking in terms of realities instead of in terms of panyatis, this also encourages more development of ubekha as well.
I think understanding leads to more letting go, more equanimity, more acceptance of what is conditioned.
That's right.
Right.
I wanted to ask Ajahn about Kalapa because for an ant is different from us because of karma conditioning the patisandhi. Just one karma conditioning patisandhi as an ant. And we we can really imagine how can just one karma condition all the existence, like an ant or like anything, like a human or animal or anything, and but that's just the difference when we talk about different people, even different people have different karmas, and so can you say more about karma and kalapa and ants? And and how is it that we are so different, one from one from another, and from so many different lives, so uncountable number of different animals and insects and different way of rebirth. And only once in samsara, and then no more.
What are there in this moment?
No people, no things, but
yes, but what are there? No kilesa, or what are there? Not anything, or what are there in this moment? See?
Yeah,
what about accumulation of karma and kilesa? It's there in each moment when it's not eradicated. See, the same as moment of birth, what are there? The collection of the karmas which can produce result in that life. This is the difference between animals' life and people, human beings' life. All karmas are still there, but at the moment of birth, it depends on what citta is there. Akusala vipaka or kusala vipaka. And all karmas which are there in each moment, no matter it is the akusala vipaka or kusala vipaka. But what makes difference is the karma which condition birth collects all karma which can produce in that life, as animals' life, elephant's life, ant's life, human being's life, depending on conditions which can produce in such life. But it's all there, even right now. Nothing is lost. All the karmas, and the accumulation of kusala and vipaka as pakatupanisya pachya, depending on the moment when it's there, to condition only that particular moment. Is that clear enough?
Yes, thank you, Ajahn.
It's the same as next moment, see? Or like the accumulation of kilesa, kusala, karma are there. Even at moment of seeing right now, or moment of birth. More accumulation each moment.
Yeah, I remember last week you were saying that the rupa ages, and even also Nama also ages, and with more kilesa is the sign of aging for Nama. I think that was really so true.
What about yes?
The older we get, the more kilesa we accumulate.
What about the ants seeing and the human being seeing? The accumulation, see, the karmas are there. Exactly the same, depending on conditions. What will condition birth consciousness? Whether it is kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka, but each which has been accumulated is there. That's why an ant can be born as human being or deva, depending on conditions, with all accumulations.
Yeah.
That was what I was also going to add to Azita's question about karma, like when at moments of understanding bringing result, but it also depends on Pakadu Panisya Pachya, the accumulation of understanding, the accumulation of all kinds of kusala, so that karma can bring its result. So there's always more than one condition involved. Karma can't bring its result without the accumulation of different tendencies by way of Pakadu Panisya Pachya.
Yes, even different bodies, different rupas, and it's all by karma, either very tiny or very few kalapas, or maybe uncountable, just by one karma and one moment.
Yeah. What about the Buddha's horse, the Kantaka? While he was a horse, what about the accumulation of panya? More than us or less? Because after he was born in heaven, he came to see the Buddha and became enlightened as Sotapanna. But what about the life of horse? Or accumulations are there? But no conditions for enlightenment in this life as a horse. What about the accumulation of a tiny ant? See, what about panya and accumulations? Who knows?
Yeah, I remember reading in Jatakas, the Buddha, when he was born as an animal, his great panya was showing up anyway, even as an ant or whatever he was born as an elephant or as a snake or as a monkey, or still had this all his accumulation where were showing up anyway, even in that life. And even as an animal, he was helping his fellow perhaps he was even I don't know. It was different anyway, even as an animal, not as an ordinary one. So accumulations makes the difference. Even maybe even as when born as an animal, even in the next life as an ant or as another animal, there can still be opportunities for kusala, or maybe not for panya, but for kusala. I don't know. Just speculating.
Actually, no one and nothing. Same question, do you have arms? See, one can understand
Only
one's own understanding when there is such question. Intellectual understanding, firm enough to know that actually there's no me. How can there be the arms and legs when there's no thinking about it? See, but it depends on how strong confidence is there, depending on one's own thinking at that very moment. It is the answer from hearing about no one and no self, but when it's not the experience directly of what is called, what is taken for arm, arupa, see. If we don't think about that, it's only the idea, no arm and no legs. But it's not the moment after experiencing directly that actually it's not an arm or a leg at all. And even so, it can bring about just a little letting go. When there is the understanding, even not much, it's not strong enough, but it's the beginning to understand the truth, little by little. And this is the development of no one, no self, but right understanding is there. So even such can let go. The thinking about other things, which is usually conditioned to think so much about other things, not about even arms and legs. It's conditioned. Maybe before going to bed, there can be the idea of, oh, no arm and no leg, or something like that, instead of thinking about other things. Even thinking is conditioned.
Yeah, also thinking about having no arms and legs is still thinking about arms and legs. But when not thinking about arms and legs, is not thinking about arms and legs, but Rupa is there, even if we don't think about it. But it's not as something.
And one can understand that when it's not the direct understanding with direct awareness yet, it is not just like the starting or the beginning of understanding directly, even just a moment. For example, now touching, see? And when there is some understanding at that moment of hardness, as it's just that, nothing in it at all, just a moment of that is experienced, and in truth it's gone, but panya is not strong enough for it to show up as it is, only to the very, very sharp panya, highly developed. But the truth is there. So the beginning of understanding the moment of direct awareness, which is different from just like now when there's no direct awareness. That is the beginning to understand and to have khanti, parami, not to push it to do this or that in order to understand it, but to let go the idea no one can do anything. It's where it is, just that. Learning to let go the idea of self, doing something to understand, but develop understanding of no self, anatta.
Ajahn, could you say a little bit more about how thinking no arms, no legs is a condition for letting go? Because at the moment I'm having difficulty seeing the connection. I understand that if thinking of the Buddha's teaching of what is appearing at the present moment can be a condition for some useful reflection on present moment realities, but I'm having difficulty seeing how thinking things like no arm, no legs.
And that moment of thinking of no arm and no leg, is that not the teaching of the Buddha?
The thoughts so. I mean, I understand that the effect of his teaching is that what we take for arms and legs do not belong in the sense of having an existence.
At moment of no hardness appearing, is that arm and leg?
Well,
at this moment, when hardness and softness does not appear as object, is there arm and leg?
Well, there's lots of things that aren't here at the present moment if they're not thought about. There's no head, head or nose or mouth or foot or body but I know he mentioned no self.
Yes, which means no arm and no leg as well.
Mm-hmm. But no self is a characteristic of conditioned realities.
Yes.
So we can't think of no self in the abstract.
Yes.
Just like.
Yeah, but usually in a day, does anyone think about no arm and no leg, or think about arms and legs?
I should think there'd be thinking from time to time about arm and leg.
See?
But what is the problem with that exactly?
It's the aspect of thinking of the truth. It's not a rule that in order to understand that no arm and no one and no thing at all, it does not include it. The moment
but it's
of
not
thinking
just
about
arm and leg. That everything that we think about, all our thinking is concepts.
Right.
So everything we think about is not real.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah. But when we use the word leg, there is the idea of something, right? Or nothing at all.
Well, so when we think of table or chair.
The same as arms and legs.
But it's not about understanding
it is
the reality of the present.
When there is the understanding, actually, what one usually take for I, the body, is taken from my body.
Right.
And the citta and cetasika are me, all the time, feeling, remembering, so on. So at moment of still thinking of arm and leg, whose arm and leg are thought about? I or me, thinking about arms and legs.
Well, obviously we do think about other people's arms and legs, but mostly we think about our own, but that's natural, isn't it?
But just
our whole day is geared around thinking about ourselves rather than someone else.
Okay, but just no one, nothing, just arms and legs. Does it belong to you only?
But would the enlightened being, say the Sotapanna, would still think about arms and legs and without any misunderstanding?
As the enlightenment thinking can think about concept as usual. as usual. But the truth has been enlightened already, that actually, in truth, there is no one and no thing as before, but different realities are directly known, experienced.
But the path
as
to
no
that
self.
understanding, the path to enlightenment is about understanding the realities of the present moment, not about telling ourselves there's no table or arms and legs.
But okay, before hearing the teachings at all, everyone says, I have arms and legs, right? And after listening, no eye, so no arm and leg.
After listening,
The understanding of no eye means no arm and legs as well.
it's a bit different because the idea of I or self is totally without foundation or basis, whereas
Ignorance.
the idea of arm and leg and table and chair arises because of what is being seen at the present moment.
But that is not the understanding of the absolute reality as citta, citasika, and rupa.
It may not be, but it doesn't mean it's wrong view either.
Because for the person who hasn't enlightened yet, it's wrong understanding, right? About taking concept as so real.
That's correct.
And no understanding of reality at all. But for those who have enlightened, understand the truth, concept is still the same, no change, but no wrong understanding anymore about permanent thing.
But the
No,
way to perceive realities as they are is to see them as they are.
Because you see that
we can't unpick the concepts.
no.
There has to be the seeing of realities.
Yes, because but understanding that concept is not reality is there. Perfectly understanding the difference between reality and concept is there. Right? But for those who haven't enlightened, no precise understanding of the difference between concept and reality.
Right, that's us.
That's why even thinking is conditioned by many accumulation from hearing and considering and daily life, that it brings about different thought. So just thinking about no arms and legs, if there is no hearing of the truth of reality at all, no one can think about no arms and no legs. But to understand how much understanding of the truth of no self, many different conditions, many different questions can be object of considering wisely to really understand about the truth that actually there's no one and no thing at all. By the question, whether it's the arm and leg, do you have arm and leg? See, as there's no me, there's no arm and leg, but the accumulation of wrong understanding is so very deep that it is very difficult to take it out, dig it up, and eradicate it. But from just a little moment of different thinking in daily life, in daily, can bring about that we don't think about other thing, other subject, but just about whether it's the arm and leg, to be sure.
What would be the citta at the moment of thinking no arms and legs before falling asleep?
Anytime, not just before going to sleep. That is only the example for that time. But it can be right now, whether it's the arm and leg.
That be possibly kusala citta? What kind of kusala would that be?
To test whether it's more confidence of actually this moment is so short. It's there and then gone. Even thinking about whether there is arm and leg, it's gone. And it's not the rupa, it's that which experiences. See, to understand everything in life a little more at a time, from not thinking about a subject or story, but just about what is heard and thought carefully whether it's their arm and leg, but it's not direct understanding yet, but it can bring about more understanding of the words of the teaching and
How does
understand
it
that
bring about, what's the connection though between
no
thinking?
eye, so no arm and no leg.
I thought previously we'd always said that letting go is a function of panya.
Yes, yeah, letting go the idea of arm and leg.
Is a function of panya.
Yes, but it's not yet clear, but it can lead to more wisely considering, to know that actually not just arm and leg, even ears and body, the whole, it's not there at all, in each moment. But as it arises in false way, very, very rapidly, it brings about the idea of thing so very, very strong that it cannot let go the idea of even whether I have arm and leg. But at moment of understanding, seeing, of thinking, no arms and no leg and no ears and no body at all. So arms and legs is only example for thought about the whole body. Is the body at the moment of seeing? Where is it? Because the object is not the ear or the arm, but that which is seen or that which is touched. At moment of touching,
Right.
letting
So
go the
I
idea
can
of
understand if we are thinking about just seeing visible object, thinking, hardness, and those things, because they are conditioned realities that are arising and possibly appearing at the present moment.
And what about the body, the whole body?
Included in what I just said about just hardness and the experiencing of hardness through body sense, just
So
seeing an invisible object.
when there's no body, is there leg and arm?
I suppose it's a question of a slightly different focus and what conditions what. Because as I would have, and I think as we've discussed over the years, it's the understanding of conditioned dhammas that aren't presently seen as they truly are, which brings about the understanding of no self, no body.
That's why Buddha taught about reality in different aspects. No one can limit the idea, the thinking, to think just about this and that, about the truth. That's why each savaka just taught Dhamma in their own way. See? So when we talk about the truth, whether it's the arms and legs, a question to think about the truth. A question to think about the absolute truth of this moment of seeing or at moment of hearing, just that, nothing there at all. Otherwise the world must be there as usual, full of people and things and arms and legs in the world.
The problem I have is that for the, say, the Sotapanna, there won't be any more thinking about self, but there will be thinking about arm and legs.
As usual, but no doubt about no one, no thing. What is the truth at moment even
So
it appears
it's
as vipassana jnana.
right. So it's the way that arm and leg is thought about, rather than the fact that there are thoughts about arm and leg.
Yeah, and to understand that actually there are no one, only citta, cetasika, and rupa. And we don't have to say citta and cetasika, but it's there. Just to be known what we are talking about, we use the word and term. But actually, it doesn't need any word for seeing to see. Seeing sees, but to understand that we are talking about seeing, we use the word seeing. And different language, that's all. But the moment when it's there, to understand that actually there's no one and no thing, and including no world at all, just
right.
one
Yep.
reality. And at that moment, no body, no arms and legs included. It doesn't mean that there's no body, but there's still arm and legs.
Right. I can see the value of, for example, thinking no world. Because
But what does it mean? See?
Well, that depends on actually the extent to which understanding has already been developed.
Right. That's right. Because we can say no world, but how much we mean, or the meaning of it, how much it means no world, depending on understanding.
Yeah, I find that very useful. Thank you, Ajahn. That's very helpful.
My pleasure.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like the question Alberto brought up about at the start about kalapas as ants or kalapas as humans. Actually, there are just different groups of rupas, cheetah seekers. We say the kalapa as an ant or this one as a human, just like we talk about arms and legs, but in reality, there's no ant, no human at all, just different groups of rupas conditioned by karma and other conditions, and just different cheetahs and cheetah seekers. And we just group it together and say this arm or this leg or this ant or this human. But even at the moment of birth, there's no ant that is born, no kalapa of an ant, no kalapa of a human, no rupas of a chariot, just different.
And Panya can develop to that degree of directly experience that. This is the great wisdom of the Buddha, and he taught the Eightfold Path included in the Four Noble Truths. It's so true. What is meant by the world, it has to be just like that. That which arises, whatever, even one, is a world. Because without each one, there cannot be any world at all. Included arms and legs. And in a sutta, it said that about doing the good to the, like father and mother, see, ancestor, included Buddha. So we are doing good to Buddha, learning about the truth of his word, to have right understanding of what he has experienced, enlightened, for the others, for anyone to have such understanding. Because it's so very, very subtle, very profound, even just one word. If we mistake it, it can bring about wrong understanding. Like meditation center, it's like Buddha taught, do good deeds, but actually what does it mean? So do good to the Buddha. As we can do good to parents and ancestors and anyone who's benefactor. It can be another question too. Any question can be the test for wise considering and a little more subtle understanding.
So, Ajahn, when you say to do good for family and ancestors, and it gives me the idea, go and do some good, but that's incorrect. So that doing good has to arise naturally, doesn't it? It just
by conditions from understanding only. Why we just do good to our parents or for our parents, but to more than that, higher than that. In samsara is Buddha.
So you're saying doing good by listening to the Buddha's words and
Not enough.
developing understanding, that's doing good, yes.
And talk about his word for the others to understand, see? Not let his teachings wear away. No one can understand that. As we do good deed to the others, why not do good deeds to the Buddha? Keep his word correctly and talk about the meaning of his word. Any word from his word should be heard. Each word is the moment of doing good deeds to him.
Often when I speak with people about Buddha's teachings, people that not my Dhamma friends, but other people. Some people come up with some very strange ideas about what Buddha said, who Buddha is, and then I find it's almost. I feel I'm being disrespectful to Buddha's words by trying to explain to someone who really doesn't get it.
It wastes time.
Well, it feels like a waste of time, yeah.
Only to those who can understand. Only. Otherwise, that person can have dosa and bad idea or about Buddha and his words.
For me, I think it's really important to respect the Buddha's words because they're the best words that anyone can ever hear. And if they're not being cared for, then it's disrespectful.
Only respect or how to respect, see, depending on the understanding. The best thing for him, like the best thing, like the parents would like his child to be good, the same as Buddha. So the child behave good, and then that think that is paying respect. But paying respect to the Buddha means not just pay respect only, but to do anything which means the way to show or to have respect to his words.
I'm very surprised, well, I shouldn't be, but I often am, of how a lot of people will just totally disregard little animals. We were talking about ants before, and people are quite willing to just spray them with spray or step on them, or it's, and I try to talk to people about animals having, an existence, but they might listen temporarily and the next moment it's a bit more spray.
Do you know the accumulation of the animal?
Definitely not.
See, you might kill an alive which will be born in heaven and be enlightened, who knows?
Well, I actually pulled a little moth out of a swimming pool today, and I thought it was a feather, but when it was on my finger, I could see it was a creature, and it didn't want to leave my finger. So I sat and I talked to it, sort of saying, well, do I know you? Are you sticking with me because you know me? So it was actually quite, there was a lot of attachment to this little creature, but finally it must have dried out and flew away. But it's really good. It's useful. It's good to know that these creatures do have an existence, do have they're jitta and jeta and rupa, as we are. So caring for them, I think, is kusala.
Yes, but the best thing is that to understand one's own citta and cetasika at that very moment, not the others. And the words of the Buddha will lead to this moment, which is experienced, to understand the truth that actually it's only a moment of that which is conditioned to arise to experience, and then gone.
Yes, we can make up big stories about anything and everything. With very little understanding of my own intention or jittas arising and falling, jeta seekers.
And that is panya, which begins to know, see, not you. Gone completely.
Well, I guess it's comforting to know that maybe all the years of listening haven't been to no effect.
And why there is always doubt about this and that of the Buddha's words?
Well, I would say probably accumulations of doubt in the past, just collecting doubt.
Because it's not known stage by stage as it is, we try to find out about the regret and other reality, but not understanding the characteristic which is not self as that which arises in experience, no matter what is it, attachment or regret or what, is not known as a reality yet. Not understanding the truth that it just arises to experience. So we think about the characteristic of this and that, try to find out about the characteristic and the manifestation, but that cannot be known. Only think it can be just only thought about. But the truth is that as long as the characteristic of that which experiences is not known, there must be doubt, because there is the idea of I, so there must be doubts. So the point is now that which arises and experiences is there all the time, never lost, but it's not known at all. So the words of the Buddha bring about the way to understand it directly because it's now. So it's impossible to just find out whether it is this or that. It's only the word of thought, thinking at that very moment. But when it is experienced, it's just like that. No use for any words to explain because it appears, it shows up. So true. But the understanding of it is not me, not anything, should be known clearer and clearer, little by little. And it cannot be without direct awareness. Like now, seeing, we talk about seeing, but no awareness of seeing with understanding at all. But hearing about not me and that which experiences is always there. And this is the beginning to develop by themselves or cetasikas and citta. Otherwise, there must be doubt as long as reality does not show up as it is. And this is the study Dhamma, study what is there now, as what is heard from the teachings. And it develops to what is said, Adi Sila Sikha, Adi Citta Sikha, Adi Panya Sikha.
I can see that it does take that patience to just be. And then even, that feels like there's trying to just relax. And as you say, sometimes take it easy. I think that's a good comment for me. But even some of my friends tell me, look, just take it easy. It's okay. And that's just in conventional life. So
someone said to me, I live long enough now. Not enough at all, as long as not enough good deeds and understanding Dhamma.
So somebody actually said that to you, Ajahn?
Not directly, but he said. Not long enough for doing good deeds and understanding Dhamma.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, the more I see how muddled we are, that it takes a long time, eons, as you've mentioned. And of that, I have no doubt. I just don't think Panya will arise and eradicate in the near future. It's a long time, and that's okay. That's what is.
Long enough for not doing good deeds or even to do evil deeds, but not long enough for doing good deeds and understanding Dhamma.
Yes, well, there's plenty of time to do bad deeds.
So one can see the precious moment of understanding Dhamma, see. And we don't know how long we will live. Long enough for doing bad deeds, not long enough for doing good deeds and understanding Dhamma.
However, there's nothing we can do. There is just Chittasikas, rupas arising and falling, and in fact, there's nothing that can be done, as you often remind us.
And to have time to hear the teachings is the result of good deeds done before, but not enough.
But when you say not enough, is that just us clinging? Oh, there's not enough time for me to in this life, there's not enough time for me to do all the good deeds. And it's not, you can't just do good deeds, because many times there's not even thinking about doing good deeds. It's just attachment or aversion or whatever.
Depending on understanding, because when it's understanding, it is time to do good deeds, all kinds of good deeds, see, all words of the teachings. Each word clearer, deeper. I think that it's time, right?
Oh, Dika, Ajahn,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you, everyone.
My great pleasure. ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
กราบทั้งท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
See you all next time.
Thank you.
See you on Monday.
See you
Thank you.
ค่ะ
Bye bye.
bye bye See you.
Hi, Alberto, Yam, Chandra,
Rotika.
Pat,
สวัสดีค่ะ
everybody. I think I've covered them.